So thank you everybody for joining us today. This webinar is brought to you by the Green Deal Project Support Office and its Network of Multipliers. This is the 8th Network of Multipliers webinar, Insights into the Green Deal Call funded project. I'm very happy to have you here today. Just another quick reminder for those of you who hadn't joined yet earlier, we'll be using Slido today for audience Q&A. So if you scan the QR code that's on the screen, that will take you through to the Slido. We've currently got a poll running asking where you're joining from today. It'd be lovely to know where you're all from and who's in the audience. So I'll give you a few minutes to access it there and submit your answer. The link to Slido is also in the chat box. So if you don't want to use your phone, you can use the browser. On the Slido, if you don't have any questions, but you like other people's questions, then you can vote on them. And we will be asking the questions with the most votes in order, just so that we can have enough time to ask the most popular questions. So I'll share the results of the Slido so far. And the QR code will be throughout the webinar. So if you haven't quite had the chance to use it at the moment, it will be there later. So you can see we've got an international crowd with us today. Quite a few from Brussels and Spain, but it's great to have all of you here. So thank you for joining. And I'll just head back to the webinar. And before we begin, I'd just like to have a quick look at the agenda. So we'll be joined today by 6 Green Deal Call funded projects. They'll be covering topics such as agriculture, nature restoration, circular economy, food loss and waste, and extreme wildfires. So we have a real mix of exciting topics today. And just to give a bit of background to those of you who are joining us for the first time or have not yet joined the Network of Multipliers, the projects presenting today are funded under the Horizon 2020 Green Deal Call, which was launched in 2020. And it aimed to support the realisation of the European Green Deal by accelerating a just and sustainable transition to a climate neutral Europe by 2050. And the Green Deal Project Support Office, also known as the GDSO, was set up to support these projects and create connections and facilitate collaborations between the projects in order to maximise their impact. And the projects that we have presenting today all started in either 2021 or 2022 and have either now finished or will be finishing their end shortly within the next 6 months. So it's really exciting for them to be able to share their results and reflections with you here. This webinar is brought by the GDSO Network of Multipliers, which is a group of stakeholders that aims to share the impact of these really amazing projects. And by joining the Network of Multipliers, you'll be sent updates and news and current events from these projects direct to your inbox monthly. And it's also a great way to connect with the projects if there are any that are of interest to you. So I will share a link to join the Network of Multipliers if you're not already joined. And any attendees to today's webinar will receive an email following the webinar with a link to join. It would be really great to have you on board with us. And also please share that link with any of your contacts who you think would be interested in joining as well. So to start us off today, we have a presentation from Lorraine, who is from Climate Kick, and she'll be presenting for Clean Farms. So are you here, Lorraine?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, great. Then over to you.
Thanks a lot, Ellie, and good afternoon, everyone. Very happy to be here today as Clean Farms is finishing next month and end of December 2025. So the presentation today will be about Clean Farms' journey towards climate neutral farms. And this project is part of the Food and Health Group of the Green Deal support team. If we go to the next slide. So the context that we are working with, obviously, is climate change. And in that context, agriculture is part of the problem, but it's also part of the solution. Today, the major challenge for European farms is that, for example, under European climate law, the EU has committed to reducing its net greenhouse gas emissions by at least 50% by 2030. There is the Global Methane Pledge that aims for a 30% reduction of methane emissions that come from animals, for example, by 2030 as well. And there is an EU objective of climate neutrality by 2050. So how can European farmers effectively reduce their greenhouse gas emissions and increase carbon sequestration on their farms? So Clean Farms is working on this, but as I said, we are not working alone on this. We have a whole group of projects working to transform the food and health system in Europe, 15 projects, and we are working together to support the EU Green Deal and Farm to Fork strategy. Next slide. So Clean Farms' ambition as a project is to co-develop and upscale systemic, locally relevant solutions to reach climate neutral and climate resilient sustainable farms across Europe. We started 4 years ago. We've been working with 33 partners across 14 countries in Europe. And we are really a project that's dedicated to research and innovation. Next slide. The concept that's at the heart of the project is the concept of the innovative systemic solution space. These are groups of farms and connected stakeholders that work together to test and assess solutions for sustainability. So we start with demonstration farms, expanding to lead commercial farms, and then disseminating learnings to outreach farms and replication farms. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see on the map what these hubs look like, the little dots here. So each of these are groups of farms and stakeholders that are located in their specific climate and environmental context. They are also working each on a specific production system that goes from dairy to specialized crops such as tomato or olive. And some of these as well as are working directly with supply chain actors, agri-food companies such as Nestle or Danone. If you go to the next. So what do we do to support smarter agriculture for climate neutrality? First, we start with climate impact calculation, as well as assessment of other factors such as biodiversity or water quality that are integral part of environmental sustainability. But we look at greenhouse gas emissions and carbon sequestration on the farm. In parallel to that, we develop a catalog of climate solutions that so practices that farms can implement both in herd management, in crops, and in grassland management. And we implement on farms. So all the farms developed climate action plan and they are evaluated. What that means, next slide, is we want to tackle the challenge of transforming production systems at scale. This can mean several things: transformation at the level of the farm, scaling up, scaling out as well, replicating, and scaling deep, going very deep into systems transformation. Easier said than done. How do we do this? Next slide. First, we start from the observation that there is a wealth of research and data around climate smart and climate resilient farming practices. So there are reports available on what practices work or do not work. But imagine you are a farmer. First, do you have access to this research? And if you have access to this research, there are several questions that may come to you. Is this solution applicable to my farm? Is it going to be as effective on my farm as it is in the farm in the report? And what's the economic applicability? What are the costs? What are the revenues? What are the potential trade-offs or opportunities for me? Next. So to try and solve this gap, one of the key deliverable of Clean Farms is the catalog of climate solution. And what goes together is the micro learning module panel. So in this catalog, we have fact sheets that cover 33 climate solutions that's available online, going from GHG reduction to carbon sequestration in the sector of dairy, beef, sheep, pigs, arable crops, olive orchards, and other crops. This catalog is designed to support European farmers, but also advisors in selecting farm-specific solutions. It's evidence-based and it integrates economic and full sustainability assessment. Next. Another key result is starting from the observation that farmers cannot work this transition alone. They need to work together and they need support from other stakeholders as well. So how do we support this collaboration? This is what we do with the scaling toolbox, a toolbox with tools and methodologies that are designed to help people coming together, listening to each other, defining common vision for transition, defining the steps to accomplish this transition, and finding the right tools to support this global movement. So it addresses farm knowledge, but also policy incentives and collaboration approaches. Next. As part of this scaling reflection, one of the key factors that we've looked at is also the business side and the economic side of things. So working with the 6 supply chains, namely companies like Nestle, Friesland Campina, Nutrifarms, and Danone, we've looked very closely at what tools exist in terms of business models, financial instruments, and de-risking instruments to support transformation in farming systems. And so this can mean cooperative models, public-private partnerships, but also bank loans, subsidies, price premiums, where companies pay a bit more to have a product that is that has less climate impact, for example. All these kind of models are very important to support transition at scale. Next. Then one of the last key results, but nonetheless important, is the use of modeling tools for climate smart farming. Clean Farms has done lots of data analysis, analyzing all farms in the project, combining precision sampling, audit tools such as the Cool Farm tool and modeling. And we've also developed pathways using different models to provide data beyond greenhouse gas emissions. So this, for example, looking at integral sustainability assessment. Of course, there are challenges, gaps, and barriers in the wide application of these models, but we have identified those and we are providing guidelines for how to apply different tools for different ambitions. Sampling, model user guidance, also integration in policy. And this is specifically relevant right now with the development of EU carbon farming policy and specifically the carbon removal certification framework, or EU CRCF, which you may have heard about. Next. But finally, really the key result and the key impact is implementation on the farms. What Clean Farms has delivered is for 141 commercial farms across the 20 farm groups is baseline assessment, climate action plans where each farm has selected a range of solutions from the Clean Farms catalog of farming practices, and end-line calculations, so to measure progress, knowing that in 4 years, you can't always see a very significant change, but we do have results and these are being processed and will be published next month. We do have a few preliminary ones that I can show on the next slides, showing, for example, here, I think it's for dairy. If we go to the next. Yes, thank you. Look, so using 2 different tools, looking at GHG emissions, we found a reduction of CO2 equivalent per unit of products. So of course, this is only a very small sample of measurements. There are lots of ways to measure per unit of product, per unit of land, and other ways to assess that. But this is still progress to be noted. And then next slide. In terms of impact, what's really interesting with this project is the collaboration it has created and also the understanding of socioeconomic factors for the adoption of new practices by farmers. Here, these are some results from a survey done in France with more than 400 replication farmers that attended demonstration events. And what comes at the top in terms of a factor for adoption is profitability of the farm, improving economic results, but also the perception of farms in society and adaptation to climate change. So these are the top 3 factors that we can work with. And then next slide. Really at the heart of Clean Farms was collaboration. And this shows as one of the key takeaways that farmers and stakeholders engaged have taken from the project. The main benefit, facilitating exchanges among farmers and other stakeholders. And you see here pictures of some events, farm walks and demonstration in the field where peer exchange has been facilitated, but also working with farmers and other types of stakeholders, local policymakers, local companies, in what we call creative arena workshops, which were multi-stakeholder planning workshops. And a few final messages on what we can do now to accelerate change. First, we need multi-stakeholder, multi-indicator, holistic sustainability approaches to design future farming systems, not only focusing on carbon CO2 equivalent, but also we need multi-stakeholder partnerships and unified messages to scale. We need evidence-based solutions on technical management, on a whole range of practices, and we need continued knowledge sharing on this. And we need incentives for climate impact mitigation practices and boosting farm and involvement. So this presentation, on the next slide, I have to thank a lot of contributors from the project. A lot of this content was developed for the final conference of Clean Farms that happened last week. And if you're interested in hearing more, we're also hosting a final webinar on the 11th of December. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Lorraine. That was really interesting. And we can share, if you share the sign up link to the webinar, then we can also include it in our next newsletter to the Network of Multipliers. And then the audience can receive it. So
thank you.
So just as a reminder, we have Slido for questions, and we do have some time for questions. So if you follow the QR code on the screen, that will take you through to the Slido where you can submit Q&As, questions throughout the whole webinar. There's also a link in the chat if you prefer to use your browser. You can see we've got one question from Slido, Lorraine. It says, can all farmers access these solutions?
So if you mean the information, yes, it will be. So now the full catalog structure is on the Clean Farms website, and the fact sheets are being added as we progress, and all will be online by the end of the project, so by the end of December. This information is available to everyone. Then, of course, farmers have to select what fits best for their context and their production systems.
Thank you. That's all the questions that we have at the moment. So we'll move on to our next presentation, where we are joined by Daniel Haring from the University of Duisburg-Essen. Daniel.
Yeah, hello.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah, hello everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation, for the opportunity to present some of our results. Next slide, please. So Merlin was one, or is still one of 4 projects of the Green Deal call that are dealing with ecosystem restoration. Next one, please. Next one, please. Yeah. So in these 4 projects, sorry, please one back again. So it's a bit animated, so it's not so simple always. So our partner projects were Rest Coast, Superb, and Waterlands, and each of these projects was dealing with a certain category of ecosystems, coastal areas, forests, peatlands. And Merlin was especially on the water side, so we were dealing with streams, rivers, but also to a certain degree with peatlands and wetlands. Next one, please. Altogether, these four projects addressed more than 70 sites in all of Europe. And the speciality of these projects was that in many of these sites, we also actually performed restoration projects. So like a Life Plus project, for example, would have done it. And of course, there was also a decent research component. So we were really at the interface of practice and theory. Next one, please. So overall, next one. Overall, the Green Deal call, well, was dealing with ecosystems from a very broad perspective. So it was not only biodiversity, as many of the previous projects has mainly focused on. It is about also the embedding of ecosystems in society. It's all in all basically about societal transformation and what ecosystem restoration can contribute to it. Next one, please. But when the projects proceeded, well, there was an additional incentive. The Nature Restoration Regulation was adopted 1 year ago. And the Nature Restoration Regulation, basically, it demands all the European countries to deal with ecosystem restoration in another degree of magnitude than currently. So altogether, about 25% of European ecosystems need to be restored, and we, amongst others, published a science paper on this process and several policy briefs. Next one. Merlin was a very massive project with altogether 47 partners involved, and we were dealing, as already said, with small streams, large rivers, and with peatland wetlands. And we had 18 case studies in which we invested about 10 million euro directly into restoration. And we also dealt quite intensively with certain economic sectors of which we think they are also instrumental and also interested in ecosystem restoration. Next one, please. So to have a look on these different ecosystem types we were dealing with, peatlands and wetlands, this is basically the vision that drained peatlands can be re-wetted again and also contribute a lot to carbon storage. Next one, please. A similar vision for small streams that are frequently disrupted nowadays with weirs, which should be removed to gain various targets of the European Union's legislation. And also the connection with floodplains is an important topic for various purposes. And next one, please. For the large rivers, it is quite similar, but we always have to acknowledge that measures on large rivers are tremendously difficult. But here and there, it is possible to reconnect, for example, floodplain areas, which is also a target of the new nature restoration regulation. Next one, please. This is a distribution of our 18 case studies. So we had peatlands and wetlands and small streams and large rivers as case studies. And all of these case studies basically were already existing before Merlin. So there were large restoration measures already implemented, and we monitored these and tried to learn from these. And in addition, we implemented additional measures alongside the already existing ones. Next one, please. So a few examples. Many of these projects were basically subject to what I call projectification. So basically, there was one project after another implemented, always restoring a larger part of the respective ecosystem. This is, for example, the Danube downstream from Vienna, where in various projects, about 50 kilometers of bank fixation has been removed, and Merlin was part of this, so that floodplain could better be reconnected. Next one, please. This is the Emscher catchment in Germany, which is a massive project of about 5 billion euro investment, where basically an urban river has been restored. This was formerly just transporting sewage, and it was now be restored to something like a river again. You see here the mouth of the Emscher. Next one, please. What Merlin did with the Emscher catchment was basically to deal with the dikes along the Emscher and to establish biodiversity-rich grasslands along these dikes. Next one, please. We dealt a lot with peatlands. This is one example from Finland, where we rewetted about 120 hectares of a former peat extraction site, and we dealt more generally with how best to rewet these former peat extraction sites, which is basically a low-hanging fruit in the dealing with peatlands. Next one, please. Similar examples from Poland, where we also rewetted all together with previous projects, about 6,000 hectares. Next one, please. An example from Bosnia, where we rewetted about 1,500 hectares. Next one, please. And finally, one example from the small streams, where we dealt with the removal of dams in streams. An example from Spain, where we altogether removed 10 dams and weirs to especially enhance the passability for sediment and for fish. Next one, please. So what could we learn for the implementation of the nature restoration regulation from these examples? Basically, we can make a point that these existing cores, so these large, already existing restoration initiatives, they are very useful to start with because it's pretty easy to do additional restoration alongside, just because the stakeholders they have already been involved, and many people in that areas are already convinced from the benefits of restoration. Next one, please. We monitored especially the existing restoration measures, not only for biodiversity criteria, but also for social and for economic criteria. Next one, please. So all alongside the Green Deal criterion, we had a lot of stakeholder meetings there, where basically people from the area, they redefined basically what they would like to achieve with those. And we also rated then, of course, how much the restoration measures have met these expectations. Next one, please. One more click, please. So if you roughly distribute these different criteria in the categories of environmental, social, and economic criteria, we can see that the vast majority of these measures have achieved their goals, especially in the area of environmental and of social criteria. The economic criteria were not always met, especially when it comes to the return of investment when private companies were involved. Next one, please. So a second lesson was, that these restoration measures, they have multiple impacts: environmental, social, and also economic. And these are basically essential arguments for restoration. They offer a lot of synergies also with other initiatives. Next one, please. What we did with all these 18 case studies was that we built regional scalability plans, so we call it. So basically, we searched for options in the near surrounding for future upscaling of restoration. Also here, I would like to show you a couple of examples. Next one, please. This is a Polish example where around a national park close to Warsaw, a lot of revetting has been done. We have finalized these rewettings within Merlin, and we have now searched for areas in the near surrounding, in the buffer zone of the national park, where the next rewetting initiatives could be taken place. Next one, please. An example from Hungary, where we basically performed an entire planning for a floodplain of a medium-sized river, the Tisza. So they have it now on their shelves, and they now for each of these segments of the Tisza now how to restore, and they can now work on the next steps also for gaining funding for those. And finally, next one, please. We can draw a lesson here for nature restoration regulation implementation. That, well, basically, once we have identified the authorities, the stakeholders, and the general public, and have informed them about the benefits of restoration they have experienced, that also, then they are much more open for the next steps, also for large-scale restoration initiatives. Next one. An important part was that we dealt with altogether 6 economic sectors, namely agriculture, hydropower, peat extraction, navigation, water sanitation, and the insurance industry. And we searched basically for commonalities where basically all these, the interests of these economic sectors align with restoration. Next one, please. So we built a community of practice there. We were basically co-creating together with sector representatives strategies to scale up nature-based solutions in freshwaters. And we combined this all in a cross-sectoral roadmap that will appear in 1 week as a major result of Merlin. Next one, please. So you can find these sectoral strategies if you go to this link here that is on this QR code. And well, there you can find all the details. Next one, please. So the lesson we can put down here for the implementation of restoration initiatives is that there is a lot of room for cooperation with economic sectors and restoration. Implementation is often challenging, but we have compiled a lot of encouraging examples. Key for the large-scale success, certainly, of the nature restoration regulation will be a good cooperation with the agricultural sector. Next one, please. Finally, we have compiled a lot of information about the financing of ecosystem restoration with a focus again on the freshwater organisms. We call these off-the-shelf instruments. They are also well underlined with introductory videos and tutorial materials, covering things like donation-based crowdfunding, corporate donations, debt instrument, credit guarantees, and public-private partnership. Next one, please. So what we can note down here is restoration currently is still largely depending on public money. So basically we are still grant addicted, so to say. Private funding currently has played a minor role, and a main instrument that will hopefully come up in the near future are the so-called biodiversity credits alongside the carbon credits that might help a lot to boost restoration in Europe. Next one, please. We are almost final now. Next one, please. Finally, we have produced the so-called Merlin Academy. That is basically a training platform where we, I think, have compiled very well-designed training materials, not only in printed version, but also always a lot of online material, and especially videos. For example, next one, please, on restoration financing, on the economics of freshwater and wetland restoration, of the technical side, and also on the societal side. So we have enrolled about 300 users currently, and we are about to advertise this broadly. And this will, of course, be a legacy of Merlin that we will further employ also in the future. Okay, final slide, almost final slide. So we would like to note down that the exchange with the community of practice is crucial, and that there are plenty of promising learning resources now, including the Merlin Academy. Finally, last one, please. What can we recommend for the implementation of restoration measures in Europe? Certainly, we can say that it is very useful to capitalize on successful projects. We can always underline the synergies, and we can count on multiple benefits. The cooperation with economic sectors is crucial. We can benefit from experiences and from learning platforms. And certainly, we also need to keep pressure to improve the regulatory framework, for example, concerning biodiversity credits and the next round of the Common Agricultural Policy. This was Merlin in a nutshell, and I'm happy to answer questions if there are any.
Thank you, Daniel. That was really interesting. And we do have a couple of questions in the Slido. So we've got a bit of time to answer those. So the first question is, how do you ensure the systems are maintained after the project?
This is a very important question. So a maintenance plan is always part of every restoration plan. So there are, in fact, a couple of measures that do need minimal maintenance. For example, these floodplain reconnection things. So once a dike is removed, it is removed. It's also the same basically with the wetland restoration. So if a water table is raised, then certain types of agriculture are still possible, of course. But this needs to be discussed and regulated on forehand, of course, with the local users. But then there are a couple of measures, for example, this establishment of flowering meadows along dikes, which need permanent maintenance. And this is always then part of these restoration plans we have done with the individual projects.
Thank you. And the other question we have quickly is, have you looked at paludiculture solutions? If so, I'd be interested in hearing more. And just for the benefit of the audience, paludiculture is agriculture on wetlands, I believe.
Yeah, there are two areas where basically these revetted wetlands will be further used by extensive agricultural activities. This is especially the Bosnian case that I've briefly shown, and also the Polish case where still agriculture is ongoing in this revetted areas to a certain degree. But paludiculture has especially been targeted to a much more intense degree in our partner projects, Waterlands. And they have really built guidelines for paludiculture and have compiled there a lot of successful examples across Europe.
Perfect. Thank you, Daniel. That's all the questions we have time for today, but it was really great to hear from you about Merlin's work. So now it's time for our next presentation. We have Furio Devekis here to present for Friendship. Furio.
Hello to everyone.
Are you here?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hi, over to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you to inviting us to this webinar today. I am Furio Devekis. I'm working in STAM as a project manager, and today I'm here as a representative of Friendship project. First of all, I would like to show you quickly the context of this project. So next slide, please. This project has just been concluded in the end of October, and it was developed in Poland in the region of Łódź, which means in Polish ship. Łódź means ship, and this is kind of amusing given the fact there are no river or water, sea in this area. Friendship has supported the transition of Łódź region towards a regenerative, circular and low carbon economy by integrating territorial governance, social innovation and technological demonstration that are the three pillars of our project: technical aspect, social aspect and governance aspect. Across 4 circular systemic solutions. The project has addressed key regional challenges ranging from waste and resources inefficiency to soil degradation and industrial emissions, turning them into new opportunities for sustainable growth and resilience by 2030. Here you can see the main objectives of Friendship project that are demonstrate circular solutions across 4 key sectors, which are wood packaging waste, food and feed, wastewater and nutrients, and plastic and rubber waste. regenerate resources and territories, turning wastewater, and marginal lands into valuable inputs for new products and services. That means develop new circular value chains capable of creating jobs, attracting investments, and strengthening local economies. Engage citizens, small, medium enterprises, and public authorities in adoption of sustainable and inclusive circular practices, and in the end, provide a replicable regional model that other European territories can adapt and scale through shared governance and knowledge transfer. Next slide, please. Here we can see some of the results of a Friendship project. Results about governance and planning, because we developed a new governance model, a new economy action plan called Circupuncture Governance Model and Circupuncture Economy Action Plan, providing a robust framework for circularity. This is done through a new cluster that was born during the project, thanks to our project, a circular economy cluster that operated in the Uchki region, with also the engagement of citizens. We had results concerning digital innovation, because we launched the Friendship digital platform, serving as a powerful circular systemic solution scenarios optimizers to facilitate sustainable transition. And this could help and helped us during the project for the replication of these circular systemic solutions in other territory. We had results about the technical solution deployed, like the circular systemic solution 1 about wood packaging, starting from the wood packaging waste, pallets, and through gasification obtain char for other reuse and CO2 captured. The circular solution, circular systemic solution number 2 about food and feed, starting from agricultural waste to obtain free fatty acid or compostable bioplastic or biogas. The circular systemic solution number 3 about wastewater and nutrients. We developed a modular microalgae-based wastewater and CO2 treatment plant to obtain clean water and microalgae that can be used as a fertilizer, for example. And the last one, the circular systemic solution number 4 about plastic and rubber waste, where we started from plastic waste to obtain new materials via pyrolysis, 3D printing repair, and CO2-based polymer foaming. Next slide, please. We obtain results also about citizen engagement, because we engage successfully citizens through our program across work packages, fostering community involvement and awareness. And we engage a lot of citizens during the project, during our discussion and decisions, thanks to the new cluster, the circular economy cluster, based in Uchki region. And we held also the first circularity festival in Pajenchev, that is one of the municipality, the public entities of our consortium. And here you can see this label about this circularity festival called Circulab. We obtained also results concerning the new value chains, because we pioneered new circular value chains for strategic resources streams, such as wood, bioplastic, fertilizers, and biolubricants, thanks to our circular systemic solution that are interconnected between them. Just to give you an example, in the circular systemic solution number 1, that one about the wood waste, we obtained as a side stream, for example, the CO2 captured, and char. Char can be reused as a fertilizers, and the CO2 capture can be used in another circular systemic solution. For example, in the solution number 3 about wastewater, because we treat wastewater with microalgae, and we use CO2 as a feedstock for the microalgae to grow, to generate more biomass. Or in circular systemic solution number 4, as a foaming agent for new materials. In the end, we obtain also some results concerning the replication, because we developed 4 different replication roadmap. So we demonstrated strong replicability potential for this solution across different European regions, ensuring widespread impact. And which are this region? We have in a project for different regions across the Europe, which are the north region of Portugal, the central region of Greece, and Friesland in Netherlands, at the end, Campania region in Italy. Can you switch to the next slide, please? Okay, here you can see some of the impacts by 2030. Impacts about regional transformation, like 190 million per year of circular turnover across circular systemic solution value chain, up to 4,000 new jobs in these new industries, or 4,050, a lot of amount in tons about wood recovered or compost used to produce bioplastic and biogas, wastewater treated, and plastic waste. Impacts concerning the environment, like 87% GHG reduction in emissions and 92% eutrophication reduction, 90% of wastewater recovery with microalgae, and 5,000 hectares of marginal lands regenerated. We could obtain also impacts about social and territory, like more than 5,000 citizens engaged through circular economy activities. One of the results not mentioned before, it was about a e-learning platform developed for citizens that can be used to learn new things about circular economy. And of course, impacts about governance and replication, because we developed operational circular regional cluster and one circular economy action plan. And in the end, of course, the replication, because we launched replication in Italy, in Greece, in Portugal, and Netherlands. By developing and demonstrate the circular systemic solution we just mentioned, we could achieve these impacts by the year 2030 if applied to a regional scale. For this reason, we aim to find new funds to go beyond friendship project and apply this solution to a larger scale. Next slide, please. Here you can see a couple of pictures of our consortium. The final event on the right. And I would like to thank you all the consortium of Friendship Project, and thanks to you to having us today.
Thank you, Firo. Thank you for joining us. And it's amazing to see the impact that this project is expected to have. We do have time for a few questions. We have 2 questions in the chat. I think we only have time for one. The first is on replication, but I believe you've already covered that, so I will go to the other one first. Apart from greenhouse gas reduction and waste reduction, did you discover new revenue streams from waste valorization or symbiotic exchanges?
Sorry, I didn't get it. He asked for if we discover new emission with our treatment processes.
New revenue streams from waste valorization, other than for greenhouse gas and waste reduction.
Not during this project.
Thank you. And just with the other question, they've asked which elements would be particularly suitable for replication?
We developed this e-learning, Friendship Digital platform that is an optimizer to understand how the region can achieve this circular systemic solution in their territory. This platform is, of course, free, and if someone is interested, can write me an email, and I think we can share the link to enter in the platform to understand how it works, of course. And this platform was very helpful for the replication region to build their replication roadmap.
Thank you very much, Virio. And if you'd like to share your email in the chat for that, that would be great as well.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you for joining us today. And we will move on to our next section where we have Anthony from the GDSO who will give you an update on our latest communications.
Thanks, Eddie. So I'm Anthony Santiago from the communications team at the Green Deal Project Support Office. I thought I'd take some time just to give an update on some of the outputs that have been produced from the Green Deal Project Support Office and all the joint collaborative work that's been taking place. So if you go on to the first slide, first one to mention would be the newsletter. So we have been producing a quarterly newsletter, but over the past few issues and going forward, they're going to be a little bit more frequent. So we did have October and November issues, and we've got one coming up in early December. Kind of things that we've covered in the issues would be some impressive facts and stats from the projects that we have been seeing from their results. So for example, we can see one from BioFlexGen in the bottom left, 3 times more power from biomass. How have they achieved that? Well, we provide links to all these resources and interesting information. And also, I mentioned newly published resources and practical guides. So we've curated a number of guides and information packs from the different projects that are of interest. And of course, the success stories, as we're seeing here, all the great work that's been done by research and innovation activities. And then in terms of tech, we've also featured some innovative technologies from the updates on the project. So here we look at updates from triads and pioneers. So to do with fire risk management, wildfire risk management, and also a green hydrogen boiler. So if you haven't done so already, I'd encourage you to sign up to a newsletter, which will be on the Green Deal Project Support Office website. So apart from the newsletter, we also provide updates on the social media, which you'll see on the next screen. These are sent through to the European Commission's Horizon EU account. Just a flavour of some of their more recent updates provided, include a report on climate adaptation in cities and what the projects have been doing to support these activities. And there's also non-animal testing methods. So the projects in a health working group looking at different methodologies to be able to avoid animal testing. So for example, organ on a chip technology, modeling, digital twin systems, that sort of thing. And also engaging the youth to build a better tomorrow. So looking at climate education and citizen engagement, what can be done to engage the youth in climate awareness and to take action. Now on to other outputs, highlight videos. We have been producing these and will continue to do so. Some recent examples you can see here with Aurora, Alternative, CESA, 0PM, and Localized. They cover items such as energy communities, energy partnerships with Europe and Africa, and safety, chemical safety, and pollution reduction. So do take a look at those on our site as well. Reports and articles, I mentioned a few of these already, so I won't go through them in detail, but they are available on our websites, so do take a look. And going forward, or looking ahead with events, after this webinar, after this Network of Multipliers, our next event would be one on climate services, so projects in the Climate Change and Biodiversity Working Group. That's taking place in just under 2 weeks' time, looking at the barriers that impede implementing climate services and how to scale up these services. So what are they? So climate services provide information to support decision making that's science-based, and to be able to progress towards the climate reduction goals. So do take a look. I'll provide some links in the chat after my section of the talk. And then finally, the success stories. These we release about every 6 months. And so in October, we had a bumper crop, 22 success stories spanning across the 5 working groups. So we've got some really good examples here. So I mentioned wildfire risk management. So examples of projects that have developed tools for that, climate adaptation modeling, in food and health. There's some really interesting ones like eco-efficient, where they upcycle fish waste to get nutraceuticals and to get more value from them as well. Urban environment and mobility, see examples of improving energy use and positive energy neighborhoods, and as well as some other examples from knowledge and citizens and clean energy. So these are very good, very interesting stories, very short, very shareable. So visit our website to find out more. Back to you, Ali.
Thanks, Anthony. And as a reminder as well, if you join the Network of Multipliers, then you will also get these updates to your inbox. So it's a good way to keep updated. And we will move on to the next section of our webinar, and we have Anahi Fernandez here to present for NeoGiant.
Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Anahi. Hi, over to you.
Thank you. So thank you, everyone, for being here, and thank you for the opportunity of presenting NeoGiant project. I'm here today on behalf of Contactica, one of the partners of NeoGiant project, and we have also our project coordinator, Marta Lores, with us. Next slide, please. So NeoGiant project's main objective is to validate innovative natural formulations with antimicrobial and antioxidant properties from white grape marc. So we use these to produce. Sorry. We use this in cattle, swine, poultry, and farm and fish productions in 3 areas, which are feeding, health, and reproduction. With this, we intend to reduce the dependence of the use of conventional antibiotics. Next slide, please. This would be the, let's say, the graphical explanation of what I just said. So this is the whole process from the grape marc to the final animals. Next slide, please. So from the beginning of the project, we have used around 8,000 kilograms of grape marc. These kilograms have been revalorized. For this, we have reduced some waste, and we have contributed to the circular economy. The process of obtention of natural extracts from grape marc has been scaled up from lab to industrial level, and we are now working on the in vivo trials, testing prototypes, and up to now we are having some satisfactory results in the 3 areas. Next slide, please. So regarding feed, we have produced prototypes for fish, swine, poultry, and cattle. On the health area, we have some treatments prototypes for intramammary syringe for bovine mastitis, topical compositions for exudative epidermitis. And in reproduction area, we have some prototypes for sperm extenders for fish, poultry, swine, and cattle as well. Next slide, please. Right now, we are finishing some immunological tests. We are working as well in the life cycle sustainable assessment. Sorry, my voice today is not the best one. On the exploitation and work package, we are working on our business model canvas. We are creating some exploitation routes with the partners, and we are also producing our technology watch. And of course, we have our communication and dissemination work package, which has been working from the beginning of the project. But right now, we are having much more intense activity in this area. Next slide, please. So up to now, the impact of our project is represented here. We have produced 15 scientific publications. We have attended 34 conferences. And for now, we have produced 3 newsletters, but there is still 1 or 2 more to be produced during the next months. We are, sorry, I don't remember if I said it at the beginning, but we are finishing by March 2026. So we still have some months, and we will still working on dissemination. Next slide, please. Up to now, we have created 1 cluster, which is storable. But recently we have created the second 1 cluster for feed. It's still under creation. We already have a logo and a name, but it's not officially launched yet. And we are also part of the armor cluster. And as well, we have been collaborating throughout these years with different projects such as, well, I can say BioBeo, Sisters, Evan, PestNu, etc. Next slide, please. We have also produced some practical abstracts and, of course, some videos explaining different topics of the project in our YouTube channel. Next slide, please. And as well, regarding more European context, we have a publication made on Open Access Government magazine, and as well as 2 success stories in the Real Deal project success stories. Next slide, please. We have also created during the project 2 patents already submitted, and we have a third one in process. Furthermore, we have 1 CWA standard, and we have we have attended 10 European Commission events up to now. Next slide, please. Okay, that's it for now. As I said before, we will be finishing our last tasks and finishing some last results we are working on. And our idea is to celebrate our final event in March. And during these months, we will also be sharing some of our results more for the general public to disseminate the project. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Anahi. Just putting up the Slido. There's a bit of back. Marta, sorry, would you be able to mute your...
Yeah, excuse me. Can you repeat the question?
Yes, it's just there's a bit of audio feedback.
Oh no, it's because I thought that it was a question in the QA. Yeah, can grape mark from any grape varieties be used, or it is specific? Well, we the whole Neo-Giant project is based on a white grape variety, wine making variety, which is Alvarinho, because it's the closest one to the company which is producing the struts, the natural struts that are the base of the whole innovative solutions. But from a scientific point of view, we already check that the process can be applied to any white grape variety. Indeed, it can be also applied with to red varieties, red grape varieties, but we bet for white grape mark because in relative terms it keeps a bigger part of the initial load of bioactive compounds because the different wine making process. So it can be applied. That's the whole. Yeah, that's the summarizing of the answer.
Great, thank you.
And thank you so much.
Sorry, Marta, would you be able to mute?
Sorry, I cannot hear very well you.
Can you mute Marta, maybe?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. Sorry, there was just some audio feedback there. But let me just double check the Slido to see if we have... Yes, so we do have another question, Marta and Anahi. It says, how do you account for the variability in feedstock? Is this a major factor? And yeah, please unmute.
That is a common question, and we work with range. The idea is more or less the same that when you are applying natural starch to any other industrial sector like cosmetics or wherever. So we always characterize the raw material. We know it very well because we were working in this case with the same from more than 10 years ago, but we know that is year or harvest dependent. So we move in between total polyphenolic content range or quantity of every individual polyphenolic range. But there are also patents and so on, and all the documents that we are producing and all the solutions work with range of concentrations. So never below kind of limit, and if it's up to that, normally it's okay. I don't know if you need any more explanations about it or is enough.
That was great. Thanks, Marta.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. And I believe that's all the questions that we have in the Slido. So thank you both, Anahi and Marta, for joining us today and for your really interesting presentation. So next we'll be joined by Vivian Frank, who will be presenting for 0W.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so
Hi,
much.
Vivian.
Hi, thanks so much for having me and for the opportunity to present today. Yeah, 0W is also in its final month, and I'm really happy to present some of the main results and the impact the project is having today. I'm the liaison manager of the project, and I work at ICLE. We're a global city network aiming to support cities in their sustainability transitions. But now over to 0W. I'm aware that some of you have already heard about the project. If we go to the next slide, you can see the aim and ambition. So 0W is all about reducing food loss and waste. And the goal is to have food loss and waste in the EU by 2030. At the core of the project are 9 systemic innovation living labs, we call them, and they are really about demonstrating solutions along the value chain, as you can see in the figure below. And there's a couple of other work streams supporting these innovations and scaling them out at large. For those of you who are not that familiar with food waste, it is actually very big at scale. A few figures. In the EU, nearly 59 million tons of food waste are wasted annually, and this contributes to nearly 10% of greenhouse gases globally. So it's actually a major issue, and we will come to that a bit in the next slides. If we go over to the results, there's a lot that has been happening. It's 46 partners working together in 16 countries over the past 4 years. First and foremost, from our living labs, all of them have progressed to the implementation and demonstration phases and have produced very impressive results. So first is this platform that we have developed. One of the major issues with food waste is that all the data that is being collected is highly fragmented, and there is not a good standard that makes it comparable what actually food waste accounts for. So this food loss and waste data space that 0W that we have developed helps to monitor food loss and waste by making it easy for retailers, but also farmers and other stakeholders to enter their data and get comparable figures. The other cells have also produced, the other living labs have also produced a lot of results. I would like to highlight 2 of them. One is innovative, sustainable and smart packaging living lab. So one of the innovations that 0W have developed is a packaging that changes color with the remaining shelf life of the product. And this is really important, especially for high perishable products such as fish. So Eroski and Etene, 2 of our partners, together with Novamont in our project, have developed a packaging that changes color according to the shelf life of the salmon. This has been tested with consumers in supermarkets, and it's now ready to be taken to the next step after 0W ends. So yeah, really, really proud of this result. It has also been done, the consumer testing, together with the Sisters projects, one of our sister projects in the Green Deal Support Office food working group, and it has also been published in a success story. So yeah, highly recommend you all to have a look. The second SIL I wanted to highlight is the food valorization as a service. This is more directed upstream in the food value chain. So one of the issues with harvest is that there's a lot of, we call them ugly vegetables and fruit that are not fit for selling in the supermarket, but there is this mobile unit that can be placed on site and can produce fresh fruit juices directly at the farm level that can then be sold. And this is increasing the shelf life of the projects, and it's also creating use for these ugly vegetables and fruits that are normally not being sold. So this has been demonstrated in the Fox project, which was a predecessor to 0W and has now been taken further in this project. So yeah, really happy about these results. In addition to this, as I was saying, the Living Labs are at the core of the project, but we also have work streams supporting their innovation. We have this systemic innovation readiness level tool. And I think if we go to the next slide, you can see a bit more in detail what that actually means. So in 0W, we know that food loss and waste reduction strategies need to make sense, but they also need to be competitive. So it needs to make business sense to implement them at large scale. So Ilvo, one of our partners in Flanders, has developed this systemic innovation readiness model. You can see the different dimensions down here, and it assesses interventions at different stages, innovations at different stages, according to their readiness level. And it's really important to take that into account. There's different aspects that influence the readiness. For example, a tool can be from the technical side super ready, but if the regulatory framework is prohibiting the large scale use, then it's not ready on the governance dimension. So yeah, really good analyzational tool that can be used and came out of the project. And together with this, we're also happy to say that we have 5 patents that are already have been submitted from 0W connected to the innovations. If we go to the next slide, I wanted to address, this is also a bit animated, so maybe I click a bit further and I hope all of the policy briefs can be shown. If not, we will stick with this one. But 6 policy briefs came out of the project, all directed to different target groups. First and foremost, obviously the consumer, but on top of that, also farmers are a big target group of the project, and it's all in the perspective of enabling the just transition. What we also heard at the beginning of this webinar, what this call was funded upon. So I highly recommend everyone to have a look. It's really comprehensive. Also to say here from the policy side of things, there will also be another policy brief published out of this working group, Green Deal Support Office Food Working Group, together with Sister and Titans. So that's something to look forward to. Next, we have an overview of challenges and opportunities. There's a lot of lock-in effects if you look at food loss and waste reduction. And as I said before, it's really important to look at those also to make sure that the transition we are striving for is just. What you can see here is related to the policy briefs, an overview of the challenges that are there today, like, for example, looking at the consumer target group, the ineffectiveness of the awareness campaigns that are currently there. At the same time, this is also an opportunity to work on the behavioral dimension more and to engage consumers more, like Eroski and Itene did with the sustainable packaging. Also working on communication, what that actually means when the shelf life is shorter. It doesn't mean that the product is bad, it just means it needs to be consumed earlier. Here also other challenges, like for farmers, the digital divide and unintended environmental consequences of food loss and waste reduction strategies, and how to overcome these. So Going to the next slide, I quickly wanted to summarize the impact. As you can see, there's different dimensions. The results are what is there now, and the impact is what is expected also to come into place after the project has ended. So as I said, it's really important to us that we have demonstrated that the innovations make strong economic sense. There's a positive cost-benefit ratio and a substantial return on investment. And you can also see an overview of the scientific impact that we had. But lastly, I also wanted to mention the policy impact. We have a very strong policy lead in the project, and together with joining forces with the other projects, we, for example, also issued a statement on the revision of the Waste Framework Directive, and this led to more ambitious targets in this Framework Directive 2 years ago, and this is really great, and I think it also shows what collaboration between projects working on the same topic or similar topics can really achieve. Lastly, I wanted to conclude with a few impressions from the project. As you can see, there's the success story on tackling food waste together. You can see also the sustainable packaging option at the bottom right for the salmon, the policy brief that will be published soon together with Sisters in Titan. And last but not least, this is the liaison managers of the different projects at the Towards Halving Food Waste conference, where we all jointly participated and liaised with European Commission representatives in the policy space. It was a really nice conference, brought together many different stakeholders also from the business side. So yeah, I wanted to thank everyone also here who contributed to the good work we achieved together. And I think that's it from my side. I look forward to answering any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Vivian. It's great to see the policy impact and, like you said, the collaboration with other Green Deal co-funded projects. The policy brief that will be disseminated through the Network of Multipliers as well. So keep your eyes out for that. And I will have a look at the Slido. I think we have a couple of questions. Yeah, we've got quite a few questions here. So I'll start with this one. The packaging that changes colour is very interesting, although it may discourage buyers from purchasing what is not perfect. Was this risk considered?
Yeah, thanks so much for the question. Exactly. This is a conversation we had for a long time in the project. This is why this consumer testing was so important with Eroski, the big retailer in Spain that is a partner in the project, and it had very good results. So it was accepted by the consumers. Maybe also to say is that not the entire package changes color, but there's this one field, this one color field that changes topic with an explanation next to it, what it actually means in terms of remaining shelf life. Yeah.
Nice, thank you. And another question that we have is, have you received feedback and seen changes in outcomes as a result of your policy briefs and recommendations?
Yeah, as I said, the biggest outcome so far was this revision of the Waste Framework Directive. That was in 2023, I believe. So it's also already a while back. The other policy briefs are still being disseminated widely. They're quite new. So let's see. I know that the new targets have been published and it's a current ongoing discussion with what's happening next. But yeah, a lot of good things with food loss and waste are also happening in Brussels. So hopefully we can continue to contribute to this.
And in a similar note, one person asks, do you have any recommendations for engaging policymakers?
I think it was quite elegant, this Towards Halving Food Waste conference, how they did it. They had this dedicated policy space for representatives, policymakers, and others to mingle. And what was also really great at that conference is that it was a multi-level dialogue. So they invited national policymakers, for example, the Catalonian government, but also representatives from Flanders together with the Brussels representatives from the European Commission. And it was really fruitful, the exchanges, because a lot of regulatory frameworks are also published on the national level. So you always have to see how to engage the different levels.
Nice, thank you. So that was an in-person event.
Yes, indeed.
And one final question, where have you found the biggest source of food loss and waste in the food supply chain?
That's always the households. I think it's up to 60%. It's always the household. So it's yeah, that's one of the things. It's very tricky to address. And yeah, there's other projects that are looking at also, for example, social norms, like the chorizo project, which has recently ended, that has a big effect. So yeah, we recently had our final stakeholder conference together with chorizo. So I recommend you to also have a look there.
Thank you, Vivian. And that's all the questions that we have. So thank you for sharing today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks. And we'll move on to our next slot, where we are joined by Beatrice for FireRes.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ellie. I think you can already go to the first slide of the presentation. Yes, all right. Hi, everyone. My name is Beatrice Bellavia. I work for Euromontana. That's the European Association of Mountain Territories. And we've been part of the 4 years journey of FireRes, which is coming to a conclusion actually this week. So quite busy times, but I know everyone here can relate probably. So my role was to coordinate the communication and dissemination activities of this project. And unfortunately, our project coordinator could not join us today. So I'm going to do my best to address all the questions. And if I'm unable to answer, I'll make sure to connect you with the right people. Next slide, please. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of background information, that's already in the name of the project. It's FireRes, so it is resilience against wildfires. Yet we don't talk about any type of fire. What we really address here are extreme wildfire events. This is not the right place to explain you maybe all of the different features that makes extreme wildfire events different from any type of wildfire. But I think what you need to know is that this phenomenon is getting more frequent, more severe, and it follows dynamics that make it very unpredictable and that just overwhelm the capacities of the emergency services. So in very poor words, you might consider these types of events as just impossible to control. This means that what you can actually control is how prepared the landscapes and the communities are to these types of events, right? So basically, the project tried to drive a transformation, a transition towards landscapes and communities in Europe and beyond that are well prepared to face this type of challenge that is happening ever more often, not only in Europe, in the rest of the world as well, but especially is starting to happen in regions that are not familiar at all to deal with wildfires. So I think I said enough about the relevance of the problem here. FireRes lasted 4 years, and it's a very big project. There are more than 30 partners in the consortium from a little bit all over Europe as well as beyond. The efforts of the project were focused on the design and implementation of what we call innovation actions, abbreviated as IA. You're going to see this word popping up very often in the presentation. And these types of solutions have been tested in 11 different living labs. Almost all of them are in Europe, but one of them is in Chile, which also broadens even more the scope of this project. And the coordinator is the Forest Science and Technology Center of Catalonia. Next slide, please. So because I am coordinating communication activities, I know that very often an image can actually transmit a message a little bit more efficiently than many words. So what you see here is the way the FireS project conceived resilient landscapes. So basically what we tried to do was to improve our knowledge of the root causes and the behavior of extreme wildfire events. And we use this knowledge as a foundation to conceptualize a new approach that basically revolves around the idea of integrated fire management. What is that? It's basically a way to conceive a landscape that keeps different dimensions of this landscape together and includes actively the social part, the economic side, the cultural, and the ecological dimension. And it does recognize them as as crucial parts that are interconnected with each other and that do work only in a more ecosystemic perspective and not in an isolated way. So basically, what you're looking at is a resilient landscape that is being implemented thanks to a community-based and adaptive management, thanks to the creation of incentives from the socioeconomic perspective, thanks to inclusive governance, thanks to awareness raising and training activities, and then last but not least, also thanks to the implementation of advanced technologies. Next slide, please. So because the innovation actions were so many and so diverse, it's really impossible for me to basically give a proper overview today. So what I'm doing first is dropping in the chat two important links that you can use as a main reference to check all the different innovation actions that have been produced during the project. Also, please bear in mind that this is not the only result of the project. We have a very long list of deliverables as well as other initiatives that were not technically classified as innovation actions, but definitely did contribute to advancing the project. So I really encourage you to check it out. What we did was to categorize all of these different innovation actions and other solutions. And then we also basically asked all the partners in charge of them to pitch them and to try to explain them in a very accessible way, creating a very nice playlist on YouTube, which I also invite you to check out. So what I'm going to do is to basically select just a few of them that somehow represent all the different groups, like thematic clusters of this project. Next slide, please. Thank you. So one of this innovation, one of the main groups of innovation actions was focused on emergency, mapping of risk, and sustainable fire management models. And what you see here is one of the solutions that was implemented by the firefighters department of the Catalan region. You might think of this model as a sort of like, let's say, a recipe book or something like this, where basically the firefighters managed to test different ideas in different scenarios and forests all over the region. They could try to teach firefighters on how to implement these models. And basically, based on this experience, they were gathering what was working and what was not working. So creating a sort of lessons learned compilation, right? One of this method is called prescribed burning. Basically, that means that you intentionally light a small fire, which is carefully controlled, and this can happen only when the weather conditions are safe. So this way, you're already cleaning up the fuel. So all of the dry branches and bushes that otherwise they accumulate until a big fire, which is not controllable anymore, happens. And that's, of course, a huge problem. Another very helpful tool that was explored within this innovation actions is grazing with animals. So for instance, goats or cows, basically you place them in strategic areas and you let them eat bushes and grass. So basically the forest floor is naturally kept clean. This way, if you choose in a smart way the areas that are dedicated to this activity, you get a lot of fire breaks or strategic buffer areas that can also actually help emergency services to access some place whenever the emergency happens. Next slide, please. So yeah, this is actually, I forgot about the animated video, but that's an example. What you're seeing there is actually one example of prescribed burning that was indeed implemented in the framework of the project. I think we can go to the next slide. Thanks. So another big group of innovation actions was instead focused on the conservation of the ecosystem and the design of landscapes. So this one here was actually about how to make houses and in general neighborhoods in wildlife urban interface areas that are more safe from wildfires. So basically, the partners responsible for this managed to figure out how to build, how to create buildings that don't catch fire very easily and how to choose, for instance, the type of vegetation around them in a way that it's less likely to burn. So the main result of this innovation action was a set of like advices and recommendations on how to strategically place vegetation and what kind of materials or what kind of doors and smaller infrastructure components of a house you might choose in a way that fire and smoke are just like hardly getting into the house in the case of a fire. So basically, it's about thinking ahead to make homes, gardens around, and the nearby forests safer from the fires, using a smart design and a smart choice of vegetation. Next slide, please. This was actually one of the most popular innovation actions that we worked on. It's called Firewine. You might have heard about it already. If not, there was a lot of talk this summer about how vineyards were actually functioning as very efficient fire breaks. And often during the terrible wildfires that happened in the summer, especially in Spain, Portugal, France, and many other places in Southern Europe, it became very, very clear that whenever a vineyard was placed, like the landscape was kept very well cleaned and managed, and that really prevented thousands of hectares to burn in case of wildfires. So the idea behind this innovation actions is basically to boost a sort of public-private mechanism that is leveraging investments in the wineries that are often surrounding forests. And what happens is that companies are basically awarded with a label in an effort to improve their market distinctions whenever they apply good practices for landscape management. So thanks to this label, of course, they could potentially access other supports or other networks, depending, of course, on the existing system and administrative rules around them. Together with this label, a network of active vineyards was created to basically facilitate the exchange between the different stakeholders. And something else that's really worth mentioning here is that the European Union Intellectual Property Office just a few months ago has actually officially approved the registration of the certifications that are stemming from this label. And also a few months ago, the first wine seller in Europe actually officially signed an agreement with this label to incorporate the Fire wine label on their products. So that was also definitely a success story. Next slide, please. Another group of actions, of innovation actions, was focused on the more governance, society, communication side of things, right? Because that's also very crucial. So what I would like to talk about here is the FIRE education platform, which is an online website that works as a repository of plenty of resources that really range across a lot of different topics. There is a lot of stuff about fire culture, fire ecology, how fire has been narrated in history and art throughout the years. But you may also find a set of recommendations on how to behave before, during, and after a fire. And that's also very important. There are a lot of training resources and activities for teachers themselves that might be interesting in, basically designing lessons or courses about this topic. Finally, you can also see an interactive component that has a lot of pedagogical resources for, let's say, students or pupils in different ages, and includes also some practical exercises. So this is still a work in progress. The platform exists already and is available, but certainly will be expanded in the upcoming years. Next slide, please. Finally, a very important group of innovation actions was all about advanced technology solutions. So I picked only one of them. That is basically a pan-European system to define management priorities in order to mitigate the impact of wildfires. So it's an integrated system in the form of a web online platform that basically contains an open access server of data. It includes a lot of different data about the fuels, about the climate, about the fire hazard, and so on. It also includes a fire spread simulator and many other very important tools that can help people that are managing landscapes or that are in charge of taking decisions, what they can prioritize to mitigate the impact of fire. So there you can also get, a fuel map at the European level. It displays a lot of different information and what's most important. And this was also already illustrated in one of the GDSO success stories. All of these data have been validated through a geocache mobile application, which was very interesting because it definitely involved the contributions of single citizens and interested people. Basically, you can open the app, take a few photos of trees, of bushes, or whatever you have around you whenever you're in a forest. The application understands immediately where exactly you are located, and basically the photos and the location data are helping to improve these maps, and this information basically records how much fuel, so how much plants, dry leaves, woods, and this kind of stuff, how much is in a forest in that moment. This fuel actually can influence how likely a wildfire could start or spread. So you might easily understand how important this information is. So once all of this information has been collected, a team of experts, of course, double checks them and agree on what type of vegetation is being shown. And then this information, once it's validated, is being used to teach computer models in a way that the computer can basically predict in an accurate way the different fuel types. Next slide, please. So after this very synthetic overview with examples of innovation actions, I'd like to talk a little bit about the impacts of this huge project. So at the beginning of the project, we did commit to align to the Green Deal wildfire goals that requires that by 2030, the wildfire fatalities should lower down to zero. The accidental ignitions should be reduced by half, just like the reduction in emissions and so on. So there was a list of very ambitious goals by 2030. What we can say is that the results of the project are definitely promising. Here in the bullet points, you can see some examples. Thanks to our simulators and real-time risks maps, we improved the capacity to make predictions of 10 times. We definitely managed to lower the wildfire intensity and emissions thanks to landscape management practices, or at least we managed to demonstrate that this is possible, right? We managed to demonstrate that with governance and with community engagement, you can definitely enhance the awareness of the risk and improve the decision-making processes. And we actually managed to prove that using economic tools in a strategic way, you can actually support more resilient landscapes and other risk-reducing practices. So in a nutshell, the results are promising, but if we really want to get to the original goals for 2030, we're going to need to scale these innovations at a European Union level, right? I'm sure this is an issue of discussion for many of you, but yeah, of course, the project is finishing now. So we've been reflecting on, how to take this thing forward. And based on this, we created a set of recommendations. Next slide, please. So here you can see them, what we recommend as strategic actions to ensure that what we have produced actually has a longer term impact. It's 7 points. It's certainly expanding the practice of prescribed burning and of fuel management, is to make sure that wildfire dedicated insurance markets are developed. It's integrating the risk of wildfire already in the very steps of spatial planning, deployment of advanced technologies, improving the governance and the engagement of communities whenever you are managing a landscape, as well as the role of ecosystem services and the analysis of the different trade-offs, and finally, securing a long-term funding and policy support. I think that was the last slide. So thank you so much for for your attention, and I'm happy to take any question.
Thank you so much, Beatrice. That was a really great overview of all the important work from FireRes. And I think we do have a few questions in the Slido. The first is lots of interesting IAs. How do you select the most suitable one for each location?
Yeah, that's a very good point. So I think partially this was decided at the very beginning. I mean, even before the beginning of the project. So whenever the different regional partners behind the Living Labs were, let's say, selected for this proposal. But another thing that I can say is that in parallel to the testing and the implementation of these innovation actions, there was a whole work with the communities based in the different regions. And the project basically designed what we called wildfire innovation communities. That's large groups of different stakeholders that could include policymakers, it could include emergency services, it could include, experts and researchers that are focused on that area, and ensured that during the project a set of meetings was scheduled and that happened in order to discuss how relevant the results were proving to be for each of these innovation actions, and more in general, if they were actually answering the needs of the Living Lab. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have another question. How do you address fragmentation between agencies responsible for prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery?
Yeah, no, that's a super good question, and it actually, I would say, is still an open topic for us. There was a group of researchers that was working on what we call policy coherence. So exactly this problem, how to make sure that what is being, designed at one level or in one agency actually is not discordant with other bodies that might have a competence on the topic. And this is an extremely relevant issue for wildfires, because also at the EU level, the management of landscapes falls under so many different bodies and agencies. So I cannot say that we found a solution. There's no perfect solution for this, but for sure we came up with a series of recommendations. They are summarized in a paper that I can maybe easily find in a few minutes and drop in the chat about how to deal with policy coherence at EU level whenever you produce policies that are relevant for wildfire management. Another thing that I did not manage to mention during the presentation, but I'm happy to do it here. So FireRest was not working alone, but it was part of a wider cluster of projects funded under the Green Deal that were all working on different aspects of wildfire risk, right? And we did contribute to the preparation of a proposal for a strategy that is EU-wide and that, of course, also addresses the issue of policy coherence. But if you give me a second, I'll manage to find the paper and drop it in the chat. So whoever made the question can also check.
That would be great. Yes, thank you. And we do have one more question. It is, does the project have linkages with the European Forest Fire Information System?
EFIS. That's a very technical one. I think, but I'm, I have a generic overview of the innovation actions, but it was quite hard to follow the details of each one of them. But I am quite sure that some of the modelings, or at least the mappings that were created with FireRest, have been relying partially on what's being already created with EFIS. If you let me know the contact of the person who made this question, I'm really happy to connect them with the partners that were responsible for the more technical side of things. And I will drop in the chat now the paper I was mentioning before.
Perfect. That'd be great. Yeah. And I think our email address comes up in one of the later slides. So whoever wrote that question, if you'd like to contact us, or we can then put you in contact with Beatrice. Thank you for answering those questions. So that brings us to the end of our webinar. Thank you so much to all of the projects that presented today. It was so interesting to get such a good insight into all of your work over these past few years. Thank you for joining us. I will be, in the email that follows this webinar, I will be including links to all of the project websites that have presented today. So if you have any questions, they may have contact details on their websites, or you can respond to my email and we can put you in touch. And you can find further information there. And of course, as a final reminder to join our GDSO Network of Multipliers, it will keep you up to date with the next webinar that we have. We host these twice a year, and we also send out monthly digests with updates and events that are going on within the GDSO and from all of the other projects, as well as these 6 here today. And it's just a great way to stay in touch and help spread the impact of these really important projects under the Green Deal call. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining today. I think on this slide, we have our email address, and also we have a specific Network of Multipliers email address that will be contacting you following this webinar. So please feel free to contact us with any questions that you have, and we'll be happy to help. Thank you for joining.
Thanks a lot for organizing. Have a nice
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.